here tonight. Welcome to the first test pattern of spring 2023. Thank you. With Holland Andrews in collaboration with Eric Millikin. Hold on, finding my light. Okay. Who here has been to a test pattern before? Okay, many of you. For those of you who have not, this is an ongoing series that started last year, and we invite visiting artists to use this auditorium as a production studio, sort of like a public access TV studio. And since last year, we've had 6 performances. This is the 7th, and I'm very excited to introduce Holland Andrews, who is a vocalist and a composer, has many talents, as you will see. They create beautiful, layered soundscapes. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't need to. But over the past week, it's been a real pleasure just to get to sit and listen and let the sounds and the visuals wash over me. I think I feel a lot of stress in the ether these days, and this is going to be the perfect antidote to that. So please sit back and enjoy Holland Andrews. But first, let me give a little slate. Y'all ready? Test pattern 7 with Holland Andrews. Thank you.
Come back into your body. Hi, everybody. My name is Holland Andrews. How are you doing? We're like, is it a performance where you clap inside of it or not? So I just felt like I would break that ice for you. Vanna, can I have my monitor come down just a little bit? Thank you very much. Cool. It sounds great. Maybe you shouldn't do anything. So there's this phenomenon with sound where if you ask someone to change something and then you wait like 20 seconds, it'll just sound better even if they didn't do anything. I bet a lot of sound people can attest to that. All right. I just want to acknowledge just a dedication for this performance. One of my closest friends passed away last week. So this is in memory of her. Her name was Ariel Crocker. For those of you who've been coming through the cafe or seeing on social media, she took the photo of me, the one in the cafe. So just this is for her. But this next song is like crazy, so it's like doesn't make any sense to have this acknowledgement of her like right now. But I feel like she thinks that would be hilarious, and you can too.
I
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Eric Millikin doing the projections. Such a phenomenal job. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Holland Andrews. Thanks for taking a risk and coming to see something new. Have a good night. Thank you.
There is going to be a conversation. We're going to take a 15-minute intermission. Feel free to get a drink or rest or whatever you need to do. We're going to rejoin here, if you'd like, in about 15 minutes for a conversation between Holland and Nicole Killian. And there'll be a really casual conversation and Q&A. So I hope you'll rejoin us. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming out to Test Pattern with Holland Andrews. And now we're beginning the talk back with Nicole Killian. But before I introduce them, I want to thank the whole crew that makes this possible. So Eric Millikin, give a little wave, did all the videos. Up in the back, Vanna, audio. Russell, lights. Andre, live stream. And then our video crew, Meta and Will, and stills photographer Kishia. So a lot of people go into making this happen. But I'd like to bring it to the panel. I've already introduced Holland. You've all seen what they can do, so I don't think I need to make any introductions. Nicole Killian is a professor of graphic design at VCUarts. And this is just going to be a very casual conversation and Q&A, so feel free to ask questions later. So I'll turn it over to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. We're going to keep this casual, so if people have questions as we're talking, just raise your hand. Or just blurt it out, too. We're not in class right now. But how are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. So good to be here with you all again.
I took a lot of notes today. I reread the interview that you and David did, I think earlier this week or last week. So yeah, I came in with notes, but on Wednesday I had come into the rehearsal. You had just gotten in and you were kind of feeling through the space, and Eric was working on visuals, and I knew that kind of the notes would be thrown out once I actually saw the performance, but I was taking notes also during. I feel like very Virgo of me to be taking notes during something that is like not a note-taking experience. Sorry.
How long into the interview and then we hear a Virgo say that they're a Virgo just to let us know how good they are? Like, I say that with only love.
No, I mean, I get it. But, I mean, there were like a couple of things that I feel like we could start with. Something that really struck me with how you started the performance was like being covered in fabric. And I know we had talked about this on Wednesday. David was sort of like joking about like Italian grandmother widow, but I had written down sort of the idea of like the invisible, the hidden mother photography aspect, like the Victorian mother photography, and kind of like moving past just like that specific notion. I was thinking about this idea of like hidden care. And I feel like starting with this idea of like being shrouded, but also sort of like starting to like usher the audience through a process was something really powerful for me, that like led me to write down like the word guide. And I wonder if we can like start there, because I feel like you really guided us through like a collective experience tonight.
What a great starting point. It's so funny that you mentioned that. So before I do any performance, I ask that I be guided, and have like a kind of a host of different like ghosts or whatever that I like to ask for that guidance for, different things that resonate with me, and that who resonates with me in that context changes all the time. So I start with this sort of intention of letting go and being guided, and having a sort of general kind of set list and ideas that I wanna hit throughout the performance. But something else I felt with this care of the shroud, the beginning. It's the first time I've done that kind of performance, singing while shrouded, in this a cappella way, and it's sometimes typical for me to start a set that way, just a cappella in a chair, to just indicate to the audience this is just all my voice doing all these bird sounds or whatever, And I was really, when we had first practiced wearing the black shroud, the scrim, I kind of felt myself getting in a trance just while I was singing, just having this like kind of layer of protection, of this like, you know, is black cloth, like, which absorbs all light, just will never get trapped into it. And so I just felt like, well, for one, I'm a Scorpio, so. We talk about astrology. Being in a sort of cave-like environment is very comfortable for me. So having that layer between me and the audience, I felt like I could just be, I honestly felt like I could just be more free, especially in the beginning. Because sometimes I need that soft, you know, that soft start to really rev up in the way, you know? I can't just start at 100. So that was sort of like me, it felt like me meeting myself where I was at in order to be the best performer that I could be. So that the feeling of the shroud gave me that feeling, and it was really exciting to just try out and then to really enjoy. Yeah, so that's a bit about the shroud.
I'm not a performer at all, but I was thinking, like, I was writing down sort of all the sort of like language that you were saying, and thinking about the first like moment is like come back into your body, and I not maybe like as a call to yourself, but I was thinking about like trance music itself, and like these moments of sort of dancing or sort of being in an environment where you're fully outside of your body, and then you snap back in some way, whether it's like someone pulls you out of it, or like reminds you that you have a body. Yeah. And that was a really, yeah, just that as like a language call out was really exciting for me. Just like thinking about how you started the performance, and I wonder, like, you're referencing so many, I think, different types of music in your performance, but I'm wondering, like, thinking about the idea of like extended technique, which maybe you could explain for people, but I wonder, like, what music like brings you, or like sounds bring you to your process, and how you start to compose.
This is still on. I thought I'd turn it off. Thank you for asking that. I think you caught it when you said how come back into your body is to myself. That's pretty much how everything I make, where it starts from. Just the deepest wounds and all the protection around it, saying don't heal me, don't heal me, don't heal me, and how just cunning all those voices are, just so supremely cunning. So I start there first, and I know how stubborn those voices are, and I know that I've found the place where I want to be, where inside myself I feel that place softening and transforming, and it tends to be, but it also, I also need to meet it where it's at. Like I can't just jump over everything and be like, you know, stop hurting in this way. Just stop, because you don't need to. You know, it's not that simple. So I need to find out, you know, to where I'm at in my relationship with it, and then slowly work from there. That's a lot of too why my music can just feel really dissonant. To me, that feels like an acknowledgement of acknowledgement and validation of why that pain is still there. And then working my way from it and through it just feels like the most authentic thing that I can do with music. It's just how I choose to do it, and that kind of is the fountain from which everything gets fed by.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think there's like this notion also, sort of the building of the voices. When I was in here on Wednesday, I was sitting much much lower and closer to you. And I was thinking about, maybe it was also with Eric's visuals, this idea of sort of the singular to the collective, and this idea of like being able to use your own voice to create that collective, and like what that conversation can be for yourself as that's built. And like another note I wrote down was like the idea of like the isolated to the cathedral. And I don't know where to go with that. I think when I was thinking about your work before this and also during the performance, I kept coming back to like not having the words or language to talk about it, but like this idea of having to keep feeling through it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can go back to you now.
No, no, you got it. Like the not knowing the words to talk about it, so you just feel yourself through it. That's like my entire life. Like I've always had a lot of, well, I won't say always. Sometimes communicating words linearly is really hard for me. So I tend to just really, I just tend to simplify things as much as I can. And as effectively as I can to communicate something, because I find that when I am in like a, I can communicate really effectively. It's often like with people and with friends, but when I have to sit down and sort of articulate what I'm experiencing, it all just sort of it's so much easier for me when it floods out into music, versus with writing words. And that can also, and it's tricky too, because I'm a vocalist. So it's like I got oohs, ahs, la la las, and then every other sound. And most often the sounds that I'm choosing are not English or any language that I think is tracked or coming from anywhere other than my own mind. So when I am doing these sort of like broken language sections, that's partially just kind of what I hear in my head most of the time, and how I feel when I'm trying to just say something to someone, or articulate something to myself. And yeah, I've just found that it's most effective when I just kind of quiet the thoughts that are distracted by how hard it is for me to do that, and then I just find the easiest way for me to do that, and that's music.
That's really beautiful. I think for like maybe other people who aren't performers like myself, I was watching and thinking like, oh, performance like gives this vehicle to like the things we cannot say or do on our own, and like we're able to then watch someone go through this process, and it thinking about one of your albums being called Wordless, and like thinking about these moments where all of a sudden you're watching someone go through this journey that is their journey, but you can, I don't know, there were these moments where I thought, oh, like I'm feeling the loss that I'm going through, or the grief that I've experienced, and like you're being able to sort of tap into these maybe like sort of guttural like moments or feelings that you're not sure sort of where are like appropriate to sort of like bring into your like daily life, or like I don't know.
Yeah, performance is a space of permission for me. Just a place where I can just go and feel and do and be everything that I want. Like I get to share, and I get to share that with people who are also interested in that for one reason or another. I get so excited when I'm working on music, and I just love how it makes me feel, and then I just get so excited about other people feeling that too. And
did you really have to like give yourself that permission, or did it come easy, that sort of process of performance?
I think it was more of a realization that that's what was happening. When I was a kid, I grew up around singers. So there was singing when I was with my mom's side of the family. Folks, we were singing all the time, harmonizing and everything. And oh shoot, there was a point that I was going to make before I said all that. Oh no. Can you repeat the question?
I was like asking you about
permission. Woo! We brought it back. And then my dad put me and my sister into these these day camps for musical theater, and I found that when I was performing, I just couldn't wait until I got to be in doing choreography really poorly and like singing in a group, pretty okay, and having a character to play. It was just like, oh, somebody's telling me this is where I feel these things right here. This is where I say these things right here. Where most of the time, as a kid, I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling right now. What should I be saying right now? And just not really understanding. It's really hard to understand the world. And wonder was where I just felt the most comfortable, and I was able to access that feeling of wonder in performance. So yeah, it was. I think I was. I was at a young age. I was realizing that like, oh, this is where I get to feel free when I do this thing.
You mentioned characters. I've like read some other pieces about your work where the sounds you make are described as like non-human or not animal, not human, and I wonder, do you think in terms of characters when you're working through sounds, or is it just a process of it happens and then you're sort of surprised by what comes out of you?
That also, yes, very that. Also, in this, along the theme of sort of feeling guided, there's times where I feel like the presence of whoever I ask to be with me in that performance, and it's sort of like, the way I see it is like, yeah, I'm just a vessel, and like different folks are just walking through, but they're folks that I allowed in ahead of time, versus just like I keep boundaries with the things you let around you in all ways, including the spiritual, if that's your thing. So sometimes it feels like a cycling through of different guides. A cycling through of different ancestors, but not clearly, but I just feel the sort of like
presence.
Yeah, just a deep presence of like something familiar from somewhere, but I don't know who. So yeah, it's just it can feel like a character. It can feel like different things that are with me.
Mm-hmm. I know you were saying before we started this conversation that you had tried some new things with this performance. How did it feel also like collaborating with someone making like a visual language for the performance?
Well, I'm lucky as hell because Eric Millikin is just like a total shredder. It's just the most gorgeous things, visual. Yes, please. So he made it especially easy for me to collaborate with someone doing projections and video and I don't know what to call what you do, Eric. It's so many things, but it's so beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm just so grateful. Oh my God. I think it was my first time doing it, and I'm just the luckiest. So that's all I could.
Yeah.
Really
I was thinking a lot about like sort of like the form and counterform of it, or like the space between your performance and the visuals, and like sort of what was happening in between. It's hard to explain. I think for like the people maybe who come from graphic design in the audience, this idea of language, when we're looking at like the form of language, there's the typography, and then there's like the space between the letters mean a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think about that a lot, like that sort of like counterform to like the bodies, like the body text, and then like the space between the bodies. And so I was thinking about that a lot in the collaboration between what was happening. And yeah, just like excited about that maybe like new moment.
Yeah, I was very excited about it. I have no idea, like even even for concerts. If someone's like, what do you want me to do with lights? I'm like, do you.
Yeah, yeah.
Feel it, do you, you know? Yes. And I mean, this just, Eric just got to, you know, do his thing, and it was just, I wish I had more to say. He was just so amazing. I like can't.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, and like going off of that, do you feel like the architectural spaces that you perform in, like that you're responding to, also sort of with those who are like passing through you, or that you let in, like,
yeah,
how does space like affect that?
Yeah, absolutely. Space. Well, I started doing music in the DIY experimental scene in Portland, Oregon. I'm from California, but I moved to Portland when I was 19. And so one of the things you learn in doing experimental shows and DIY shows is being as adaptable as you possibly can be. So, you know, playing in basements where it's like it's about to really collapse on you, you know, or like in an abandoned house, in a warehouse, in a living room with 4 people, you know, you just sort of find a way to adapt. And so I feel like having that as my start allowed me to just to connect with the space that I was in, and to work with, you know, what I get to use in the space, and even if it's a lot like here, or even if it's not much, but particularly there's just really beautiful people that work here, really beautiful people that came to the show tonight. So I just felt a lot of love being here.
Cool. Do people have questions? I feel like, HH.
Oh, we got a little microphone coming to you. Mm.
But wondering about the evolution of going from your name like a villain to like performing as your given name.
Yeah.
How that like has evolved for you.
Thanks for asking. For those of you who don't know, I used to have a stage name called Like a Villain, and then I started to perform, and I performed as Like a Villain from like 2008 to 2019, 20, and then I had to go by my real name. The real story is universe was testing me. And so I'd been performing using that name for a long time, and then there was a metal band in Phoenix, Arizona who started to use the name, and then we were getting like tagged in each other's Facebook posts, but I had been using the name for like already almost a decade at that time, probably a decade, and they just kept on using the name, and then my manager was like, oh, you should trademark it, which is it, trademark it? And then right when we tried to, they had trademarked the name, even though they'd only been using the name. I know. Really bad etiquette, really bad like band etiquette, but I really hope they have everything that they want. No, truly. No, I'm serious, I really do. No, because then also it's something that I could have fought for. I could have fought to keep the name, but it would have been energy and money, and the easiest thing to do was just let my own name contain all the multitudes of the things that I do. I had just moved to New York. You know, I hadn't really done many Like a Villain shows in New York, and I moved to Brooklyn in October 2019. So it just felt like a time to feel new again. And but I was noticing this recently, how when I was doing Like a Villain music, it was so much more like lyric heavy and song based, and I felt so protected by doing those things with a name that wasn't my name. Even going around in Portland, I lived there a long time, so people would know who I was, and they'd say, "Oh, you're Like a Villain," and it felt really nice that they didn't know. There's just having that like layer of protection, and then I have this first EP called Wordless, and it's my name. And I all of a sudden I'm too afraid to say anything. And I really also just wanted, it was a big goal of mine with these EPs that I've been releasing, to just also really focus on production and writing music on a computer and with a computer, and integrating computer composition into my practice, because that became something that I started in 2020 because everything shut down. So it felt really vulnerable to be trying something so new. And you know, I was nervous, and I'm still nervous about it, and also just continuing to transform who I am as an artist, and just trying new things as much as I can, even if it's uncomfortable and scary. It's usually worth it so far.
It's funny how using a different name either can like deflect or like attract, depending on like what someone's asking you as well.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
As a singer, I was wondering, because you fluctuate between so many different registers, chest voice, head voice, and you use vocal fry when you're screaming, how do you feel at the end of your performance?
It depends. So I didn't go to music school. I didn't go to school for anything. I graduated high school, but like barely. Barely. But I got that diploma. My dad's happy about it. So the evolution of my voice has been a long one. And when I lived in Portland, I took voice lessons with someone called Wolf Carr, and he was kind of guiding me through doing more vocal distortion safely. So there's times when I'm not practicing that my voice can feel really, really tired and I need to rest it. Sort of like this thing where if you go from like 0 to 100 with your voice, it's not that healthy. You don't want to have never run a marathon and then try to, you got to work yourself up. So I'm still learning a lot about my voice, and sometimes it feels good, sometimes it feels tired, and I just try to listen as much as I can and be as diligent as I can with it. But it's always a process, and I'm learning more. I learned so much from the singers that are around me when I do performances with other singers, and I'm just really blessed in the community that I'm in to get to learn so much from everyone. So yeah, it's a journey for me. Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for your concern. It includes the sort of broken language thing. It also includes scales. I also sing, what's it gonna be? I don't know. It's just it's always there. So it's in my warm-ups. Sometimes I put on a little playlist of like sad heartbreak music from the 50s, and I'll just sing along with it. Or just scales, or that's a really great warming up and warm down thing for me, that sound. So I'll do that. Thanks. I don't know if I choose. I can't be the one. I can't.
Thanks. I was wondering about the relationship between singing and clarinet, and how you decide on arrangements as far as melody that you would sing, melody that you would play on the clarinet. How do you think about that relationship?
That's a really great question. Since I sang before I played clarinet, I think the voice feels like a more kind of immediate creative tool. And as far as the flow of a set, I usually think about the compositions that I've written for clarinet. They tend in my sort of like music universe, the clarinet pieces that are layered tend to tell certain kinds of stories that when I'm putting together a set or an album, they kind of go, they go in an order that best serves the flow of how I want that story to be told. I think that's the best way that I can articulate that. It's also strategic for like letting the voice rest, moving to the clarinet. It's really soothing for my body to be playing the clarinet and alternating between the two. So I feel lucky that I get to have that as another option for performing. Touring. Oh yeah, I love touring. I was just on tour actually. I was just on tour in Europe. No basement shows there, but I was opening for this band called Son Lux, and they just did the score to Everything Everywhere All at Once. So we were just on tour in Europe, and they had like just performed at the Oscars, and then like a week later they were like flying out to Heathrow Airport where we all met, and then went on tour. It was wild. They're really they're the best. They're such an amazing band. But I really love touring. One of my favorite things to do is like when I lived in Portland was just get all my gear in the car and then just tour. I would tour all the time, the Western U.S. and California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Wyoming, all of it. And so it was just like so exciting to me to just keep getting the opportunity to perform. And just to do what I love the most. And it was I took a risk, and then I quit my job, and then just decided to focus on music and just tour. I tour a lot doing music for dance, so that's another kind of touring, different kind of adaptability, different kind of schedule. Touring music, it's usually, you're doing one city after the other, typically, unless you fancy and you could like build in some space in between. But you build a route, where you don't want to be driving too far and then playing a show. And with dance, you get to the theater, you have a day to rehearse sometimes, and then you do like 2 shows, maybe more. And then you go to the next city, maybe like a week later or a few days later, and then it's kind of the same. So it's a slower pace, but it's a different kind of intensive. Yeah, so there's all different ways that I've toured, but I just love, most of all, I just love being on the road doing solo music.
You talk about your kind of classical background and like the clarinet and voice, and also like with your kind of experience with the DIY scene. How did you arrive at the kind of way of making music that you do, as opposed to like a more traditional way of approaching it?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, I didn't necessarily have a classical background. I didn't go to school for music. So I kind of started to write music the way I do because the community of people that I had were all sort of like, a lot of them were like math rock. They're in math rock bands, and in like punk bands and like noise kids. So I started writing music just on when I got a what is it? Computer, a laptop, my first laptop. It had GarageBand on it, and then
I like that motion for a laptop. That feels good.
Yeah. I started writing music on GarageBand and just layering voice and clarinet and just making these sort of glitched, strange. Just doing it for the first time. I was 18. And then I moved to Portland, and then someone found my MySpace page from all the little tracks that I would put up, and then they're like, "Do you want to play a show? It's in 3 months." And I said, "Okay," I'd never played a show in my life. And then I was asking my friends, who had listened to my music on my MySpace page, where my little profile name was Like a Villain, which is where that name came from. They were like, "Well, if you're layering and you want to do it live and you don't want to use a computer, you can use loop pedals, or you can use pedals, because these are like guitar guys, right?" So I started using pedals, and that's sort of been the foundation of the gear that I use. And then I just kind of was sticking with what I knew. I sang and I played clarinet, and I don't play any other instruments. So the nature of my music sort of has to be this, what can I do with this what feels like a limited set of inputs. You know, how can I make my voice sound different in all these ways? How can I, you know, use this clarinet? How can I use this bass pedal? How can I use this distortion to feel as dynamic as I feel? So it started because it just sort of felt like that was all I had. So I was just gonna work with it as best as I could.
Hi. You were saying that the broken language was just sort of out of your head, but what musically do you feel like were your inspirations, like different styles and genres, and how that incorporates to what you do?
Thanks for asking that. I feel like my inspirations are, I'm going to describe it in this way because it's a visualization that just came and it makes sense. It's like if you were to make a bird listen to, or like an animal or something. Birds are cute, so I'm gonna stick with bird. If you made a bird listen to like movie soundtracks and jazz and Motown music, is the music that I grew up with, and screamo, you know, these things. Like if a bird listened to that, and those were the only things that it loved the most. There's other things in there too, but I just don't want to keep naming them. Like how would that bird sing those songs? And that bird also like meditated and listened to nature too, you know. So that's the best way that I feel like I can talk about how I feel my influences and inspirations, because they're all these sort of like, I always feel like there's these like approximations of things that I just get in my own way, that I understand in my own way. Yeah, I hope that made sense. Burning desires? In terms of what of others? Wellness of others.
Yeah, I come from the background of yoga and personal training, and I see some of the sounds that you are using or creating today can be used in immersive sound wellness.
Yes.
And so, have you ever explored that intersection between sound and wellness?
Yeah, I have. Oh, thanks. Thanks for noticing. I have, yeah. Yeah, you know, so far I've released 3 EPs, and there's going to be a 4th one coming out, and with each of them, I make like a free like ambient track. It's usually like 20 to 30 minutes ambient track that you get if you buy it on Bandcamp. So far, that's the only place I know like what to do with these tracks. But I started to make these like, they're really drones, but I have trouble with that word right now. But with these tracks, I started making them because at the beginning of lockdown, I couldn't listen to music. Like music was too overwhelming, even if it was simple, it was just too much. So I was listening to this cello tuning album where it's just a single note for like 10 minutes. So I would just choose a note that I was feeling in that moment and then just let it play like all day. It was the best. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can just make, you know, and then I got annoyed with how it sounded, and I was looking on YouTube for these like 10-hour like ambient music videos. I was like, this is all whack. I don't like any of this. And so I just started to make my own. And I was getting really, really deep into that practice of making sounds for the purpose of feeling calm, for the purpose of helping with focus. Sort of like treating these ambient drones sort of like aromatherapy, you know? They're just sort of there. They're not trying to infiltrate your world too much, but they're just like a suggestion of a way, just a possibility for you. And then I've done some work for different apps who have found these drones and used them for things, you know, they put it on the app. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Are there French people here? Oh my God. Canceled. Oh no. But yes, I have.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. Maybe
One more.
Maybe one more.
Do you use sampling in your music? And if so, how do you select samples?
Yeah, so this is my first time performing with an iPad, with the sampler on the iPad. It was a learning experience for me. But I had a lot of fun. I love the possibility. I sometimes have different samples that are saved onto my loop pedals. Depending on the set that I'm doing, you know, I'll use each are loaded up with like almost to the max with different samples, but I didn't really use much on those for this performance, except for the wind in the beginning when I was doing all that, whatever. But yeah, there were some, and I think I choose them, the way I choose samples, especially the ones with the iPad, I think of like where my limit is for how I can tell, how I can feel the most excited about what I'm making, and if I hit my limit with that, with my gear, then I'm like, what can I use as a sample? So that's where I'm starting with that now. I think I'll kind of build a bigger language with that tool, because there's just so much. Now that I'm using a screen, I've never done that before. It'll just sort of open my world up with how I want to play in that space. But that's where I started. I just wanted to start real simple with this for this test pattern.
Any last minute burning questions?
This is non-related. Where'd you get your boots?
Camper.
Yes.
That's important. People need to know. David, was that your question too? No. Camper, C-A-M-P-E-R. I have another, like the main shoes that I'm wearing are other pink campers. They're like, I'm obsessed. It's so terrible.
Camper's so comfortable.
It's comfortable and fashionable. Yes.
I want to know if you could lead us all in a vocal expression
Vocal expression?
of some kind together as an audience. I feel like this would be a good ending to the night. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, this one is really simple. So if you were to maybe fun to try. So if you feel into like the center, let's pretend like your heart is like in the center of your chest or whatever. It's not, but like let's pretend that it's there. Sort of feel that, like feel the sensation of just that space. If you've never done this before, I'm so sorry, it's probably so annoying. But if you have, stay there, and then imagine that like, you know, there's like an orb of light there, and that it's sort of whirring, like it's quickly vibrating, like a little, and it's making like a little tone. So just feel that sensation and just listen to that little space, like vibrate, and listen to the tone that it's emitting. And when you do that, just for a moment, a little moment longer, just listening, you can hum that note just quietly to that center space or from that center space. It doesn't even have to be audible to anybody near you. And just hum that little tone. It can change too. Remember what this feels like. You may need to use it sometime. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Holland. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, the whole crew, for all coming. I just want to say the next test pattern will be June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd. So mark your calendars. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you and good night.